the missing army of Cambyses. History claims a massive sandstorm swallowed 50,000 Persian soldiers whole. Vanished, just like that. It's a terrifying image, is it not? A wall of sand bearing an entire empire's pride in minutes. But if we were to stop looking at the myths, right, and start looking at the reality of the Egyptian desert, a much sinister story unfolds. Today we are auditing the year 524 BCE, disappearance of Cambyses' army. We aren't looking for tombs, we're stress testing the lethal physics of the Great Sand Sea. We're moving past the legends to expose a systematic logistical collapse. "50,000 men, an elite imperial force that in 524 BCE didn't lose a battle, they became a phantom. For 25 centuries, the world has accepted a legend that a massive sandstorm rose from the dunes and buried an entire army alive. I call that a convenient fiction. Again, convenient fiction is what I call that. Sandstorms don't erase 50,000 professional soldiers without leaving this mystery as a cold case. We are moving past acts of God to look at the hard forensic data of the desert. This wasn't a freak accident. It was a mission that defied the fundamental laws of survival. By the time we're done with this brief, you'll see that the army didn't vanish into the sand. They were erased by a logistical blueprint that was flawed from day one. To understand why this army became a phantom, we have to look at the biological costs of the march. We're talking about the Great Sand Sea now, one of the most hostile environments on our planet, Earth. A soldier in full gear, carrying a shield, spear, and rations, isn't just a man. He's a thermal engine under constant siege. At 110 degrees, the human body moves from marching to surviving. In these conditions, you aren't just sweating, you are losing the very fluid your heart needs to stay in motion. Forensic data shows that a soldier under this load can lose up to 2 liters of fluid every single hour. Think about that for a second. That isn't just being thirsty. When the body loses 10% of its water, the chemistry of the blood changes. It thickens. It becomes a heavy sludge that the heart can no longer push through the veins. So by the afternoon of that third day, these 50,000 men weren't an elite fighting force anymore. They were a massive medical catastrophic problem. You see, they were breaking down from the inside out before they ever saw a single grain of wind-blown sand. The supply failure? Now, let's examine the supply line. Please join me. This is where imperial hubris meets reality. 50,000 miles require a minimum of 500,000 liters of water every single day just to prevent total organ failure. And this doesn't even account for the packed animals on the journey with them, such as horses and camels, that are essentially the engines of the army's means of travel. We have audited the historical records of the ancient Oasis along the specific route. The capacity simply isn't there. A desert well isn't a tap, it's a slow, refining reservoir. So if you march 50,000 men to a well that can only provide for 5,000, you have created a lethal bottleneck. The army was consuming more than the desert could provide before they even reached the halfway mark. They weren't just marching toward a destination, they were marching into a water debt they could never pay back. In the world of logistics, once you hit that deficient, you are already a phantom. You just haven't stopped moving yet. The dead zone. This is what I call the dead zone. There's a specific geographic coordinates in the Great Sand Sea that I call the dead zone. Again, the dead zone. It is the precise moment in the march where this source is exactly as long and as lethal as the walk forward to the next well. And once you cross that invisible line, the mission is over. It doesn't matter how disciplined the soldiers are or how much gold the king provided them on their journey, on their travels, on their campaigns. At this coordinates, this location, physics takes over. And if you turn your back, you die of thirst. And if you keep going, you die of thirst. That is the hostile environment of the sand desert. This is the forensic point of no return. You see, the Persians' command didn't account for this coordinates. They assumed the desert would yield to the king's well. It didn't. They didn't need a sandstorm to bury them. They were already trapped by the sheer distance. Conclusion? The lost army isn't a mystery of nature. Again, the lost army of Cambyses is not a mystery of nature. It is a 2,500-year-old lesson in the limits of power, and it shows how the very elements of our very earth, depending where you are, depending on where you camp, depending on where you travel, depending on where you want to be curious at, will consume us. And this is the absolute authority of biology. But more than that, it is the very absolute authority of Mother Nature. You can't fight Mother Nature. The desert didn't swell them. It simply wailed for the clock to return. It simply waited for the clock to run out of a plan that was never physically possible. Traveling through one of our planet's most hostile environments on Earth, whether it's in the desert or out in the Atlantic, like the Titanic, there's only but so long you will last, and then you will perish. That's just a fact. Nothing we do can beat physics. Nothing. Case closed.